My amplified unit, top of the morning. It is very early the morning after the go-home show to Extreme Rules 2022, Monday Night Raw, October 3rd, 2022. This Extreme Rules event is a pay-per-view premium live event that most fans are actually looking forward to. Because for the first time in many years, Extreme Rules feels like Extreme Rules. And for so many years, the promoter just stopped caring about the event. He stopped caring about most pay-per-views, and because of that, the fans could not be intrigued or really care about them. So this is the first year in a long time where there's a buzz around this event, and for good reasoning, many reasons. And one of them, every match has a stipulation. It just adds a special level of intrigue. And last night was the go-home show. Now, clearly, we are out in the world. So we're not in the amplified studios. We're not in our normal setup. But I did pack in my luggage a camera and a decent microphone. So you guys, one way or the other, are going to get content while we are out in the world, because that's going to be the majority of this entire month. But I'm going to make sure when big news stories break, man, come right here to this channel, and BC's going to give you my candid thoughts, especially on nights like this, the go-home show to Extreme Rules. Now, because we're out in the world, because we're not in our normal circumstance situation setup, I had to cut this review last night. Immediately when Monday Night Raw went off the air, BC started cutting that review. It is in audio format only. I can't just bust out cameras and microphones everywhere I'm at. I mean, I'm usually, everyone's always looking at BC like I'm the nut job anyway. But sometimes I can't take out all the equipment. So this review is going to be in audio format only. It was cut, most of it anyway, right after Raw last night. So that's the good news. You're going to get my candid thoughts on this shit. Tree Trunk, Otis, don't even get me started. You're going to hear my thoughts on that. Alexa Bliss, her trajectory, where she is going. Io Sky and Dakota, their booking, Damage Control as a whole. I'm going to give you my candid thoughts on all of it. Edge's heartfelt promo, Dominic, and what he said about Ray, Balor's botch. We're going to talk all about it, man, in that review, and that's coming up in just a couple of minutes. But for the cold open, I wanted to do this face-to-face because it involves my boy Bray Wyatt. So I waited till the morning. Only had half a coffee, by the way. So that's how much I want to talk about this and get this out to you guys, man. I haven't even finished my first cup. But Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, Wyndham Rotunda, whatever you want to call this dude. You guys know this is a pro Bray Wyatt channel. You guys know that's my boy. I love that son of a bitch as a pro wrestler. That's just the type of dude that I grew up with. He doesn't have to give me flips and dives. He doesn't have to bounce around the ring like a ping pong ball. He doesn't have to be able to give me hour-long classic 60-minute Iron Man matches. He just has to entertain me, perform, get me intrigued, have good matches, but carry storylines, man. And for so long, Bray Wyatt did just that. You may not like him. That's totally fine, right? We have people we like and we don't. For instance, I like Jinder Mahal. I know the majority of you guys never want to hear me talk about him, so I rarely talk about him, right? So I understand. We all have people we really like and we don't. I think Sasha Banks and Io Sky are two of the best female wrestlers in the world. You guys sometimes give me a different 2 or 3 names. I say Roman Reigns in the booking of somebody with a championship for more than a year, even 2 years, is refreshing. I don't agree with people being fed to Roman. I totally understand. But having one champion for a long time, I fucking love that concept. A lot of you guys want to see hot potato, or you just want to see a merry-go-round, right? Every 3 months, give it to somebody new because you're getting bored. Because it's 2022 and that's just our attention spans. But we have our likes and our dislikes is my point. And throughout all of that, it's up to us to decipher what is actually good and bad, not just what we like and don't like, right? Like I say Sasha's one of the best in the world, not just because I'm a fan of Sasha, but because Sasha Banks is the common denominator in most everybody. Does that make sense? Most everybody, all of the talent's best matches is basically with Sasha, whether it was Becky Lynch, her best match with Sasha, Whether it was Charlotte Flair 87 times, Sasha. Io Sky, you could say Sasha. And you can run down the list. Bianca Belair. It wouldn't matter. Everybody's best match is, you're probably, most likely anyway, going to come to the conclusion that Sasha Banks was their best match. Well, after a while, you have to stop and say, well, gee, what's the common denominator here? Sasha Banks is that fucking good. That's what I mean. You may not even like Sasha Banks, but she's that good. Right? Bray Wyatt, you may not like Bray Wyatt, but he was the top merchandise seller in WWE when he was there, especially that last year and a half. That was your top merchandise seller. He was the guy who had all the buzz on social media. He was the highest rated videos on the tube. He was the dude who got some of the biggest buzz receptions in the arenas, the highest rated segments for Nielsen's ratings. It was all Bray. So you can say you don't like him, that's fine. Or you may think the character didn't work. It's all bullshit. It worked better than anybody during his time. The problem with Bray was that the big matches, Vince McMahon did not have him go over. Super Showdown Goldberg, Hell in a Cell Seth Rollins, WrestleMania Randy Orton, and a few others. That's what helped to derail Bray Wyatt. But it was not the overall booking to get to those matches. It was not the character. The dude legit, at a time where WWE was so bad, so redundant, so formulaic, so tiresome to even get through a Monday Night Raw, it was like a chore. You guys know what I'm talking about. I hope you haven't forgotten, because we never want to go back to those times. H has given us some intrigue. We got to do a lot more work, but we never want to go back to that. Bray Wyatt, even the Firefly Funhouse, was a glimmer of entertainment in an otherwise dark and gloomy show. A show where after 3 hours was done, you forgot what you even watched, or you purposely tried to forget what you just watched. That was all Bray Wyatt, man. Go back to WrestleMania 37. Go back to when Alexa Bliss appears on the Jack in the Box, and she's looking at Bray. Bray's looking at Alexa. Listen and watch that crowd. It was the biggest reaction of all of WrestleMania. That's the power of the Bray Wyatt, Alexa Bliss characters and how they were being booked. And then seconds later, he's being RKO'd and defeated by Orton, and that's what I mean. You can't have the consistency. You can't get everybody fully on board if the promoter himself keeps on pulling the rug out from underneath the feet of Bray Wyatt and even Alexa. But my point is, this is a pro-Bray Wyatt channel, not just because I like Bray, which I absolutely do, but it's because of what he brought to the dance, what he brought to the table, what he meant to a show, Monday Night Raw, at a time where they needed somebody desperately to entertain the crowd, the masses. If he didn't do that for you, that sucks. Hopefully he will in the future. But if you say that the whole character and everything just sucked, that's actually false. You just didn't like it because he was rated number one in every metric. I know, I follow the numbers. So now we fast forward, right? He gets released. Him and Vince McMahon have the falling out, even though we hear, even from Matt Hardy himself, who worked closely with Wyatt for a long time, he said that there was like a father-son relationship there between Bray and Vince, and when they fought. And eventually he was out of the company. But Bray never signed with anybody else. It's almost like Bray knew, just hang tight. It's almost like a Karrion Kross situation. Hang tight, we're going to circle back. And to be honest, you just don't see somebody like Bray, Wyndham Rotunda in AEW. You don't believe that Tony Khan knows how to book somebody like Wyndham Rotunda. I mean, look what he did with Malachi. Malachi's still unhappy. Malachi asked for his release. The beginning of September, he sent out a whole statement saying, yes, I asked for my release. He said AEW held promises and they did not keep them. Read the release that he put. I felt I was promised many things that were left unfulfilled, I believe was the exact wording. And then all of a sudden we hear Tony Khan is no longer allowing releases. That same night, Malachi does a video saying, I'm not released. Malachi's not fucking fully happy, and he's not going to be until he's booked correctly. But the problem is we don't know if Tony Khan can do that. That's not shade to Tony Khan. I want Tony Khan to fucking exceed far past anybody's expectations in the pro wrestling world. But he doesn't know how to book two things for sure. Women's wrestling, he does not know how to book. And those characters like Malachi and the Bray Wyatt. So I had my reservations for the Bray going to Tony Khan. I was hoping that he could just sit tight and we could rectify this with WWE. And that's exactly what it looks like it's done, because all of this white rabbit talk for weeks, all these QR codes, all of these mystery decodings, they were all leading to Bray. But every once in a while, they threw you a little bit of a curve, right, to get you off the trail. They throw you Malachi Black, for instance. And that's when BC said, no, this has to be Bray. Because they threw Malachi thinking that there was not going to be any public statements made by Malachi about his AEW situation, right? All we knew is that he asked for a release, and Triple H probably wanted to get everybody buzzing. Could the White Rabbit be Alistair? And instead, Tony comes out and says, I'm not allowing releases. Malachi then has to make a video saying, yeah, I'm not released. And then all of a sudden, the tease with WWE's White Rabbit, it's like, well, what the fuck? We know he's not out of AEW now. So this made everybody go, okay, they're just trying to get us off the trail. And all of our noses pointed back in the direction of Bray Wyatt. And then even this week, they tried to tease Joe Gacy, NXT talent. Also one of those odd type characters, right? Real mystical, man. You really got it. And the whole character is just one big mystery. And you never quite know what he's going to do next, but you got to tune in to find out. So they tried to say that Gacy, because one of the decodings actually spelled out, I believe, Gacy. But at this point, I don't think anybody's buying it. I said this before, and it was kind of more of a question mark. Now it's an exclamation point. This is Bray Wyatt or bust. Because the latest QR decodings were all of these numbers. That is the exact spot of the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. One of the long list of decodings. What is the circumference, the exact point of location, the GPS location. The decoding was the actual spot of Extreme Rules this Saturday night. And another decoding actually was the date, 10/8/22. So everything's coming to a head at Extreme Rules. We know that for a fact. Another one of these decodings was a painting from Samson and Delilah, I want to say. And if you guys remember, when Alexa turned on Bray sent a painting out that was from Samson and Delilah. So if you're sending out another painting from the same dude, and another decoding, by the way, had another phrase from one of Bray Wyatt's past promos. So if you're doing all of this and you haven't even contacted Bray to come back, you're just fucking with this dude now. You're not just trolling this dude. You're absolutely just, you fired him last year and now you're just fucking piling on the fucking dirt. You're just kicking him while he's down. And you would think by now Bray would say something like, don't believe all this shit. No, Bray's absolutely quiet while every fucking thing is from his creativity. The painting was on his social. That's his creativity. That's legit stealing his creativity. That's kicking the dude while he's down if he's not part of your company right now. If Triple H has not picked up the phone. You're saying what he said in his promos, which we know for a fact was his words. Nobody scripted those words. Bray, we've had writers even say that, man. Bray, that's his shit. Triple H just recently said how difficult sometimes it is to work with Bray because he's so creative and he's such a perfectionist that he'll actually stop what he's doing. He'll change it. Like minutes before they're about to go on the air or tape something, he'll change it to something he feels is even better. And now WWE is taking those words. I mean, this is Bray Wyatt or bust, guys. I think we all have come to that fucking conclusion. If Extreme Rules goes off the air and anybody else is the White Rabbit, I don't give a shit at this point, man. It could be Shawn Michaels could be the White Rabbit. Karrion Kross could be the White Rabbit. Malachi could be the White Rabbit. Okay, actually, that would be pretty cool. But he's in AEW, man. He's not going to be. But it doesn't matter, man. Anybody underneath the sun other than Bray Wyatt is a bust. Because now you have everybody awaiting this dude's return this Saturday. You have stolen so much of his creativity for teases just to be somebody else. I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I don't think this was originally supposed to be Bray Wyatt. I can't wait to hear about the origins of this. I don't think it was originally supposed to be. I think WWE stumbled upon something that became so successful, inadvertently backing themselves into a corner, and Triple H had to pick up the phone. But either way, my boy, if you don't like Bray and you're not excited about this, man, all the best to you. I hope you can become in the future. But I hope you can at least be happy and excited for BC, because I get to see my boy back. For the last fucking year, it seems anyway. Less for Sasha, but for the last year, I haven't had my two favorites, man. You know, what about BC sometimes? You guys got your favorites out there. You know, you got the Romans or the AJs or the Balors or the fucking Candice LeRae's or the Dakotas. BC has been without Bray Wyatt and without Sasha Banks. And from the very beginning, when I started this channel content-wise 5+ years ago, I said this is a pro Sasha Banks channel. This is a pro Bray Wyatt channel. And both gone. And BC feels that void when his two favorites are gone. So I hope you guys can be happy for BC. It looks like Sasha is on the horizon. They're going to work out some type of revisions on the contract, which allows Sasha to do a lot of outside activities. But I think Triple H is so high on her, she will absolutely be back. She's not released anyway. They're just doing revisions on the contract. But for right now, if we can get Bray Wyatt back on Saturday, I hope you guys are happy for BC, because that's fucking monumental. And I'm telling you, man, it's going to help the company just like he did at a time where the company needed it the most. Now, there's other things going on around Bray, thanks to Triple H, that hopefully Bray Wyatt doesn't have to be the sole son of a bitch to carry the entire company on his back. I think that's the pressure that was unfair to him, because he was the only one that was so damn creative. Hopefully, with other things going on, Bray can just be one monumental part of Monday Night Raw and not the whole fucking show. Not the only glimmer of hope that we have in that company. And if that's the case, then we all win. This is Bray Wyatt or bust. After last night's QR codes, the Alexa Bliss segments, by the way, Alexa Bliss is backstage, and we get the coding and the lights out during her match. All of this stuff is happening during Alexa Bliss segments. Do they reunite Alexa and Bray? Again, if you didn't like Bray to begin with, you're not going to like that tandem. BC, I fucking loved it, and I hope that I can see them together again. So that'll be a case of just agreeing to disagree, because Bray and Alexa for BC, best for business. We're going to get on with the Raw review now, man. That's the cold open. Again, it's the next morning that I'm filming this cold open. And now I'm going to take you back to past BC from last night. Most of this review was cut right after Raw, so you're getting my candid fucking thoughts. And that's going to be audio format only, because I was not able to bust out a mic and my equipment last night. But it's audio format the entire 3 hours, and that's going to start right now. I'll talk to you guys again after this review, hopefully for SmackDown, and maybe even we can talk some Dynamite later in the week if time permits. No more wasting time, man. I got to down the rest of my coffee, and you guys got to listen to the amplified Raw review for 10/3/22 right now. Let's crush this review, Raw 10/3/22. Let's fucking go. Judgment Day starts the show. Balor lights up the mic first, telling Edge that at Extreme Rules he's going to act as the cruel hand of fate that will force Edge to say "I quit" and send him into retirement. Now I gotta say, it's so damn good to see Finn Balor leading this faction. The dude is a natural born leader, and for so long, due to improper booking, you kinda forgot that. You forgot about his Bullet Club days. You forgot about the days where this dude was the front and center dude that was captivating everybody, and for so long he's been irrelevant. And then you see him in the middle of this group with that mic and the spotlight on him, and it just, something about it, man, it just re-clicked in BC. Oh yeah, That's the Finn Balor I remember. Now, there was a little botch in his promo when he was recapping what Judgment Day did last week, and Finn said last night instead of last week. It was so minor that he could have just done a quick correct and kept going, but Finn got flustered and he short-circuited for a second. That's the best way BC could put it. Sometimes you got those wrestlers that when they flub, they're able to just let it roll off their back, keep going. I call it a quick correct. As long as you're not making a big deal out of it, nobody else will either. And then there's those wrestlers that they take everything they do so fucking pridefully, so seriously, that they just can't let it go. And it's almost like it's a moment of embarrassment, and you feel like you have to overcorrect it. You feel like you have to overcompensate the botch. You don't have to do that, man. This was one of those situations where Finn should have just did a quick correct, kept going. But instead, he says basically, and I quote, I mean a slight paraphrase maybe, but he says, "I'm in last week. I said last night. I'm so mad. I said last night. I meant last week." And BC was like, "Nah, bro, keep going. You're focusing on that botch." So now Judgment Day is fucking awkward. Rhea's trying to laugh. Damien's trying to keep a straight face. The crowd is cracking up. And this is supposed to be a heel team that is badass, right? We're supposed to be like, oh shit, they're legit. And Finn's flubbing his line, you know? And I know, like, BC, you just said this dude's a natural born leader. He's over there fucking up. Well, it's very few times you're going to find Balor screw up like that and then try to overcompensate like he did. I've seen Balor screw up in promos before, but he's never gotten that flustered. I think he knows the spotlight is once again on him. It's been so long since it has been, and he really wants to make this work. I really believe this is him taking this so seriously, which I admire. And I'm going to let that slide, man. I hope in the future, Finn knows this. Finn's a consummate professional. And for any future pro wrestlers out there, if you're ever botching a promo like that, you got to be able to let it roll off. And you can even use a botch to your momentum going forward if you're really good at these promos. But Balor's usually pretty solid. It was a moment of short-circuited Balor. Then we move on, man. Dom gets on the mic once again, very literally this time. I think he's done this in the past too. It's very literal when he tells his father, the 619 pint-sized powerhouse Rey Mysterio, that he hates him. Straight out. I don't dislike ya. He hates him. Crowd chants, "Who's your daddy?" And Dominic says, "I'll tell you who's not my daddy, Rey Mysterio." And when he said that, when he said Rey was not his daddy, BC could not help but think of Eddie Guerrero. If you know, you know. If you remember that storyline, you know what I'm talking about. We've talked about this about a month or two ago, man. And when he said, "I'll tell you who's not my daddy, Rey Mysterio," BC could not help but think Eddie Guerrero, man. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google that shit, YouTube it. Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Dominic, you'll know what I'm talking about. BC could not help but think of this dude. Too funny. This eventually, after a commercial break, leads to a tag team match between Finn Balor and Damian Priest versus Rey Mysterio and AJ Styles. Of course, makes a little bit of sense because Balor and Judgment Day have been trying, more Balor than anyone else. Balor's been trying to recruit his good buddy AJ Styles into Judgment Day. Styles wants nothing to do with Judgment Day because of their standards and practices. So this was over a 10-minute match in length. The finish saw Rey distracted by Dominic and subsequently taken out by Rhea Ripley. So you knew that's what this finish was going to be because we've been seeing this for weeks now. Rey gets distracted. Whoever's with him pays the price. Now, back in the ring, that's exactly what happened with Styles. Balor hits coup de grace onto AJ Styles and collects the W. Post-match, Styles is pissed off at Mysterio for not being in the corner for the hot tag. Styles pushes Rey Mysterio to the canvas, At this point, Ray is more hurt than he is frustrated, and he just leaves the ring because he does not want to do this right now in public with AJ Styles. So he starts taking off the gloves. He just storms away. He wants nothing to do with Styles. Now, this is going to prove to be costly for Styles. He's going to need Rey Mysterio because 4 seconds later, Styles, vulnerable in the ring, gets attacked by all members of Judgment Day. Like vultures on prey, Judgment Day totally annihilate AJ Styles. What was actually interesting, intriguing, and funny all at the same time here was Balor. Balor was great. Each punch that was dropped onto Styles' dome piece was coupled with Balor screaming, "I'm your only friend! Why won't you listen, AJ?" And as he's screaming this, he's just punching him on his dome piece. "I'm your only friend." Boom. "Why won't you listen to me, AJ?" Boom. "I'm your only friend." Boom. It was great, man. Balor was, he definitely made up for that promo botch earlier. And, it's intriguing that the Styles-Balor situation in Styles joining Judgment Day, obviously that's not going to happen, nor should it. But it is intriguing because Balor and Styles as buddies in their history in this business, not just WWE. I mean, those two, and if you know, the Bullet Club past, all of it, if you just put it all into a ball, and then all of a sudden, Balor believes that Styles is betraying him because he will not join him. And Styles is looking at Balor like, who have you become? What have you become? You're not the dude that I once fucking loved. You're not my buddy. You're nobody I want to be around. That's intriguing, man. And of course, Balor has the numbers, and last night was like the last chance for Styles. Yes, it was already a beating, so you're saying, well, BC, I think the time has passed for Styles to join. Balor's no longer looking for that. No, I think that was absolutely a beating to knock some sense into Styles. Join us, or there's going to be more and more severe beatings in the future for you. And it's intriguing to BC. Usually these type of storylines, unless they're done to perfection, they fall to the wayside for BC. You could say I'm a little jaded to them because I've seen these type of storylines so often. But with the right individuals, even without perfection, they can pull it off. Balor and Styles is that duo. So, in that aspect, interesting start to the show. Nothing over the top. I mean, the pyro was probably the best part of the first 40 minutes. But this was not a bad start at all. And again, at least there's some intrigue there with what's going to happen with Balor and Styles. Again, that did take up over a half an hour. Then we had some backstage segments, some video packages. And before you know it, we were already at the end of hour number 1, which is Bobby Lashley versus Mustafa Ali. Ali goes up to Bobby Lashley backstage. Yeah, I think that's what it was, actually. One of the backstage segments toward the end of hour 1 was Ali going right up to Bobby Lashley and demanding that he gets this match, this title match with Bobby Lashley. Show the world just to know who the hell he is and that he still has it. Unfortunately, when it was all said and done, he did not do that. He gave him a match, and we're all going to praise the effort, right? But in the end, I don't know how much this really did for Ali. But he demands this match, and this ends hour number 1. Half this match was Ali hanging with Lashley. The other half was Ali getting completely wrecked by Lashley. And I mean destroyed on the outside. It's almost like a fucking a cat or even a dog playing with their toy. They're just ripping that shit apart. Chucking it, tossing it. That was Lashley on Ali. The finish to this was a spear that spun Ali back 5 years and then a hurt lock that ended Ali's quest for relevance. Again, the old college try. Thanks for coming. You can see yourself out. Post-match, Rollins attacks Bobby Lashley, even gives him a curb stomp. I forget if it was actually on the U.S. title or not, but I think it was. But a devastating curb stomp to Lashley. Now, the thing with this is just a couple of months ago, if even, we already saw Rollins and Lashley for the title. I think there was a schmaz finish something happened. I totally believe that we've already seen this. It was kind of fast-tracked. And I questioned that decision then, in case you ever wanted to do that in the future, like a story or anything. And sure enough, here we are. BC was right yet again. When you make these spur-of-the-moment, fast-track decisions, you better know that you're not going to want to revisit it within the next 6 months to a year, let alone within 2 months later. And that's exactly what they're doing. So I'm okay with... I honestly don't believe Seth Rollins is anywhere near, and I know this is not going to be what you guys want to hear, some of you guys, but it just doesn't make sense anyway. So I fully stand by the decision to not put the world title on Rollins in the near future. That may be sad to hear. It's not because Rollins isn't deserving. Rollins isn't putting on some of the greatest work of his career. I understand, but how the hell are you going to have the vessel to get that title to him? Roman has both championships right now. At this point, they're not splitting up the titles. So if they don't do something incredible with The Rock, Cody Rhodes obviously is going to win the championships, correct? At least one. One of the other ones goes to who? Maybe you can't go another heel like Karrion Kross, can you? Do they put a title on a Bray Wyatt? Wyatt doesn't need the title. A character like that is like The Undertaker. They don't need titles. But my point is, what is the vessel? Cody Rhodes is not going to keep the championship for 6 months just to give it back to Seth Rollins, who they've already had 87 matches with together. So far, that's been all of Cody's matches before he got hurt, basically. My point is, Rollins is not getting a World Heavyweight Championship for at least a year, right? I think we all, time frame-wise, see that that's the case. There's no viable option to put the title on Rollins within a year. So as a consolation prize, maybe the U.S. Championship is that title. It's not going to happen at Extreme Rules. Rollins has Riddle in the fight pit. Lashley doesn't even have a title match because most of the time mid-card titles aren't on pay-per-views. It doesn't matter if it's the Vince McMahon era or the Triple H era. Doesn't matter. Once again, Lashley doesn't have a match. So the night after Monday Night Raw in Brooklyn, the season premiere of Raw is what it's being dubbed. That is where Lashley is going to defend the championship against Seth Rollins. Do they give the title to Rollins here? It's just awkward that we just saw this match a month or two ago for the championship. It was right when Triple H took over the regime. I remember it was the first few weeks there. And here we are doing the same thing. That's why it fell flat for people like BC that remembered that and thought it was kind of awkward. You're coming back for the receipt 2 months later? Awkward, man. But in Lashley, was this title reign that just seemed non-existent, man. It's not wins and losses. Lashley had way more wins than he had losses. So it's not the win-loss column that concerns BC with this title reign. It's the fact that it felt irrelevant from nearly the beginning all the way to what might be the end next Monday. And that could be because a bunch of pay-per-views went by where the title wasn't even being defended. Thus, Bobby Lashley couldn't even showcase his title reign. Lashley said something last night that he said many times, and BC has said it since he started this channel over 5 years ago. And it's, the title does not make the man makes the title. You could even say that about the women. The title does not make the woman makes the title, right? But you have to have help from your promoters. You have to have help from the booking. You have to get the spotlight put on you, and then you can show everybody why it's on you. Bobby Lashley doesn't really get those chances. You say, BC, he had another match last night with Ali. Not even bad. In most of the match, you just said he fucked him up. But what does it all mean? This match was made 2 minutes before. We went to commercial, and all of a sudden, boom, a match with Ali. And then all of a sudden, there's an attack, and then an announcement that a title match will be next week, but not on the pay-per-view, because Lashley's not worthy of that. That title's not worthy of that. No, we can't have that. It's going to be on Monday Night Raw. It seems like it's a fucking Vince McMahon decision. I know everybody says he's got nothing to do with WWE, which, again, Stephanie herself said that's bullshit. He's got eyes on the business now more than ever, is what Stephanie said. Triple H admitted that whenever he's in a jam or just wants to talk shop, it's his father-in-law. That's his exact words. It's my father-in-law. Of course I'm going to talk about it with him. So everybody that thinks that Vince just stopped talking WWE to Triple H is absolutely asinine. And this just seems like it's a Triple H thing, just like Tree Trunk Otis. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Don't even get me started, but we're going to rock that out. That discussion has to be had. But to see this title, this seems like it's a Vinnie Mac thing. On the season premiere, I want the title, Lashley and Rollins. And then Triple H is like, but Vince, I already did that. You know how Triple H talks. But Vince, I already did that match 2 months ago. I don't care. They're stupid. The audience is stupid. They're gonna love it. They love rematches. Damn it, do it now or I'm gonna fire you. Vince, you can't fire me. I'm the CEO now. You're a toy CEO until I get back. You're a placement holder. Anyway, man, it just seems fucking odd to me. I want to like this decision. I want to like Seth Rollins winning a championship. I just don't like seeing Bobby Lashley done dirty. I wish there was a relevant title reign. I wish he racked up many pay-per-view victories. And I wish that the title changed hands creatively at a pay-per-view. Because that's when the champion doing the job and handing over the title, that's when he also looks good, even in defeat. Moving on to the second hour. We start the second hour. Seth Rollins actually remains in the ring. So we went to commercial. We come back. And Rollins is there talking some shit about Riddle. We see a video package of what the fight pit consists of, as well as more talk of Daniel Cormier being the special guest referee for the pit. Should have been Ken Shamrock. But that's just BC's way of thinking. Shamrock would have fit perfectly in that fight pit. Rollins versus Riddle, fight pit, Ken Shamrock. But no, Daniel is Triple H's boy, so it be what it be. And to be honest, it actually ruined the segment. This is no shade to Daniel Cormier. This guy is a big WWE fan. He's a good dude in real life, good fighter. He's just, that pre-taped segment on the Tron totally just derailed this segment. It leads to a face-to-face, and by the way, that was just mention of Daniel from the commentary team, so we didn't even go to the Tron yet. I'm getting ahead of myself. After we see the video package of the fight pit, and then commentary talks about Daniel Cormier, then this leads to a face-to-face. Matt Riddle comes to the ring, and we have Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins. They basically just redo the same promo that they cut 2 months ago, or maybe even less than 2 months ago. But within the last several weeks, this was the same promo basically they cut during their backstage sit-down interview from several weeks ago. Seth goes low, mentioning Riddle's family. Matt talks about Becky becoming more successful than him. Riddle talks about Rollins being a second-tier Roman, basically. They just trade those low-blow potty shots, which we all oohed and ahed from several weeks ago when they were in the sit-down interview. And remember Rollins dropped the F-bomb? And we all oohed and we ahed because that was really good, you know? And a lot of people still oohed and ahed over this promo. But again, if you're watching like BC and you remember what you watched in the past, this did not land like it could have landed, because these were all little zingers that we've already heard before from the same two less than 2 months ago. It was the same promo with the same potty shots. Just slight differences here and there, but it was the same thing. I mean, everybody's going out of the way to say that this was one of the promos of the year. Far from it. Their first one, the sit-down one, absolutely, from several weeks ago. This was just a bootleg version of such. Seth and Riddle end their little spiel when Cormier comes on the Tron and introduces himself. Literally, he says something like, for those that don't know who I am, I'm an ultimate fighter, but I don't even know, man. Like, when you have to introduce yourself, when you have to explain who you are, that's probably not a good thing, man. Again, Shamrock was the way better option here, but Triple H is much better boys with Daniel, and you know, if Vince McMahon still has a lot of stroke, Vince is going for the for the headlines right now on ESPN or maybe Fox Sports, maybe Sports Illustrated, right? Daniel Cormier would be more the bigger name, I guess. But the better WWE option for the fans, for these wrestlers in that match, Riddle and Rollins, for the presentation, for the pay-per-view, Ken Shamrock was the way better option. But once DC was done with his "I'm gonna be the law and order" speech on the Tron, Rollins storms off, leaving Riddle in the ring. Crowd was like, that's it? I mean, this segment fell flat when DC hit the Tron, and especially when that little taped segment that DC cut was off the Tron. So was the segment. It was off the rails. So, this could have been a lot better done. It was the go-home show to Extreme Rules, and this is one of the premier matches that everybody's looking forward to, Rollins and Riddle. We were hoping for a really badass segment. A lot of fans were happy with the promo face-to-face. Again, if you're like BC, you remember all of these lines several weeks ago. So we just ran it back. We can do better than that. Dakota Kai versus Candice LeRae up next. Standard women's match in WWE. Dakota defeats LeRae via the Fruit Roll-Up. I can do better than that. I didn't have enough coffee this morning yet, guys. Via the Fruit Roll-Up. That's right, standard WWE match. So the Fruit Roll-Up was put in play. The crowd couldn't care less. And we moved immediately on to a backstage segment afterwards. Sounds like a standard WWE women's match. In all seriousness, LeRae just debuted last week. Was having her lose her first post-debut match the best booking for her? Of course not. Do you need BC to tell you this? Of course not. But I'm not going to harp on it because Dakota Kai, Io Sky, they need victories, right? Damage Control is supposed to be a vital, yes, but a viable, badass faction, especially for the women. We don't see a lot of women factions. This was supposed to be that faction to come in and literally take control. Damage Control takes control. Instead, the only damage that needed to be controlled was being done to Bayley, Io, and Dakota. They were racking up losses when they just could not afford it. And in the weirdest of ways, Raquel rolling up Io. Aaliyah rolling up Dakota. Dakota and Io losing to Aaliyah and Raquel for the championships in the first place. It was just weird booking, being beat down by Alexa, Asuka, and Bianca so many times. It was at some point where this had to stop and we had to go, okay, is this a badass heel faction that we should take seriously? Or are they just like glorified jobbers with some titles? So even though it was so awkward to see Candice LeRae take an L already, there was no way Dakota Kai could lose another match, man. It just can't happen. She should have lost 0 so far. Nobody in Damage Control should have lost a match yet. They just debuted in August or end of July. I think this was the earliest SummerSlam ever, but it was right around August. And we just got into October, man. It's just been 2 full months, and we're already talking about racking up losses. You can't do that shit, man. There's no reason. You say, well, BC, there's only so many females on the roster. I mean, everyone has to lose once in a while. No, negative. That is subpar thinking, man. I grew up in eras where there's people that barely, if ever, got defeated. And if you're creative, you do it in a way where you're not feeding people. It's been only 2 months. And between Io and Dakota, they've already got a handful of losses. Not good, guys. Not good. I mean, we can agree to disagree all we want. I'm telling you what actually is good and bad based on the facts of what works and what doesn't work. We've seen this play out in the past. It's never worked. History is always, unfortunately, deemed to repeat itself. So, I want to harp on Candice LeRae already taking an L. But Dakota Kai needed the W way more. And as far as Candice LeRae, look at her debut in Canada, by the way. The own homeland, and half the crowd, at least, I'm being generous, didn't even know who LeRae was. So you know a shit ton of casual fans are looking at Candice LeRae and thinking, what the fuck is so special here? And then she's already eating an L. I don't know what this is doing for Candice LeRae by putting her in this match to just take an L. I just don't understand. And again, via the fruit roll-up of all things. So nobody really wins here. Dakota doesn't look like a badass because it's a roll-up. Candice LeRae doesn't look like a badass because she got rolled up. So she can wrestle, 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes in a match. She can take Canadian destroyers. She can do suicide dives. She can fucking do moonsault. She can take a DDT, a pile driver, a pedigree, 16 super kicks, a sharpshooter for 12 minutes. But she can't kick out of the fruit roll-up. The roll-up does nothing for anybody. It should be used in the very most scarce of situations. It should be used in situations that call for it. Like if two dudes are in there, 42 fucking minutes, they're spent, they can barely stand, and out of nowhere, a fucking roll-up occurs. I'm thinking back to like Savage Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. Even Bulldog Bret Hart, out of nowhere, man. They're putting on a clinic, and that shit caught them off guard. But when you do it left and right all the fucking time, and when you do it in a match that is not fucking 20 minutes or anywhere near 20 minutes, fucking barely 10, I believe, and you can't even get your shoulder a centimeter off the rope from a roll-up. No, man, this is not good. And if you like it, that's all that matters. I'm not trying to get you to agree with anything I'm saying. I'm telling you what is right and what is wrong based on history, based on what works and what doesn't work, based on the solutions of facts. What facts have brought us to such solutions, I should say. I'll move the fuck on because this match just befuddled BC. Can you tell? I can't even say I'm going to get less irritated here. Johnny Gargano versus the tree trunk Otis. Oh boy, where do I fucking begin? Austin Theory is on commentary. Now I have to ask, if anyone thinks Vince McMahon is not behind this tree trunk ridiculousness, you got a couple 2-tree screws loose up in the dome piece. Because this screams Vinnie Mac. I cannot rationally take my dome piece to think that Triple H is behind or keeping and doubling and tripling down on this tree trunk nonsense. I can't believe that's Triple H, bro. They advertise this poor dude. Literally, if you have like the WWE on the internet, on your phone, you get the advertisements for Raw, things like that. Tonight on Raw, and you get an email. They advertise this dude as the tree trunk on all of the promotional ads, and then proceeded to call him a tree trunk 12 times in this match. Slight exaggeration. It's honestly sad. Tree trunk. Otis is a tree trunk. It was bad enough when Vince called him that and had the commentators call him that, but now it looks like we have tripled, quadrupled, 10 times down that son of a bitch. They're going all in. It reminds me when Rollins was called Seth freaking Rollins 87 times every time he was in the ring. And Rollins just did an interview where he said he actually had to go to Vince and say, dude, you got to stop that. You're going to ruin this for me. You're going to get people nauseated by this. And Vince said, okay, we'll stop. My bad. And he kept the freaking, but they don't hammer it down your fucking dome piece every 10 seconds. But that's exactly what they're doing with the tree trunk Otis. Yeah, I got to cut myself off there and keep moving on because that's something I can go on another 10 minutes. That just does not scream Triple H. Even if Vince McMahon said he's got to keep the tree trunk name. You hear me? And Triple H is like, all right, Vince, all right, man, okay. I doubt Triple H would hammer it down like they're doing lately in just calling him a tree trunk. H knows better than that. I just feel so bad for this dude. Otis had so much potential. He got over organically with the crowd. On his voyage to winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, he was getting over organically. And then Vince just had a fucking fit. said he fell sour on him, sent him back to NXT, rebranded him, came back with a mean mug, lost his personality, still jobbed out. To this day, he jobs out. Fucking gets tooled on by Braun Strowman, and then they hammer down that he's a tree trunk. Anyway, that's my spiel on that. Can you tell I'm not happy about that shit? Where do we go from here? Gargano. Figuratively, it's Gargano versus Otis. Gargano figuratively takes a piss on the tree trunk. This did nothing for Gargano either, by the way, just to fucking wrestle a little bit. And for Otis, he still looks like a fucking clown. We lead right into a Chad Gable versus Braun Strowman match. Out of nowhere, right from this match. Strowman defeats Gable. That's all this was for. And Strowman walks up. So one of my favorites in the business, Johnny Gargano, that was absolutely a stupid segment for him. And Strowman comes back to WWE to do what? For 2 fucking months. Just make the Alpha Academy look like fucking little... Well, I'm not gonna. Let's just move on. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say, man, because I have so much respect for Gable and Otis. What are we doing with Alpha Academy? This tree trunk bullshit is not working. Gable is too fucking good for this shit. I understand he's so good at promos that you could go the comedy route, like a Sami Zayn, and it's going to be gold. But if he just looks like a fucking tool every time he's out there, bro, that position's already taken by Sami Zayn. And even Sami Zayn is starting to win matches again. I mean, at some point, they have to turn the table with Gable. At some fucking point, they have to act like this dude is a legit talent with talent. Because he is. What a crazy concept. Let's move on to the third hour because I'm sure that's another thing I can go 10 minutes on. Bianca Belair versus Bayley. Their Extreme Rules match contract signing started hour number 3. This was some good promo back and forth in this segment. Bianca Belair was really good there, man, showing the world she's coming into her own on promos, not just in the ring. We cut to the Tron, and backstage, Dakota and Io are brawling with Alexa and Asuka. You can tell that Dakota and Io jumped Alexa and Asuka. This distraction allows Bayley to destroy Belair in the ring, and she lit that gal up, bro. Took her fucking braid, chucks her over the table, then chucks her back over the table into a chair. Bayley just lit this girl up. Belair is able to get away from Bayley to run to the back and help her friends out, but it's too late. Asuka looks like she just broke her leg, man. She's got a chair wrapped around her knee. She's in agonizing pain. Alexa is also in pain. Bliss looks directly at the camera as if she's possessed and says, "Io, this isn't over. You, me, tonight." BC was like, more of this, Alexa, please. This was shades of the Bray Wyatt Alexa Bliss, which happens to be my favorite version of Bliss. Then we went into Solo Sikoa versus Dawkins. Sikoa hits the spinning solo, pins Dawkins. Not much more you can say about that. Edge cuts another masterful promo from his personal ring at his home. WWE sent him a ring when he first returned to WWE. And he just kept the ring. He's sitting in the corner, and he delivers a heartfelt monologue on how hard it's become to live up to the legacy of the Edge character as he gets older. Speaking as Adam Copeland, he says the hardest part is his family watching him basically deteriorate before their very eyes. But he says he can't apologize. He's living his dream, and he's willing to put it all on the line at Extreme Rules because, in his words, all 4 members of Judgment Day together cannot, will not make him say, "I quit." We move on to the main event, Alexa Bliss versus Io Sky. Sky defeats Bliss with her over-the-moonsault. Hate to see Alexa lose, but your champions should not be losing weekly TV matches. I said this about Dakota several minutes ago. I'll say it here about Io. And especially if that champion is one of the best female wrestlers on the planet, Io Shirai. Io Sky. More technical difficulties in this match, with several times the picture would go out either blank or a different color, clearly teasing Bray Wyatt. And again, it's during those Alexa segments, man. Some of you guys are not on board with that decision. I cannot wait for A, Bray to come back, and B, to reunite with Alexa. That was a badass money-making tandem. And if they do it correctly, it will continue to be such. Will Alexa reunite with Bray upon his return? I sure hope so. Them two together is just best for business. Whether you want to hear that or not, Alexa and Bray, go back to Mania 37. They got the biggest fucking pop of the night when Alexa showed up on that Jack in the Box. And Wyatt's looking at Alexa. Alexa's looking at Wyatt. The crowd is electric. That's what the Bray character can deliver. And with Alexa, that's the type of creativity they can come up with. But Io Sky defeats Alexa Bliss. Post-match, Damage Control proceeds to deconstruct Alexa Bliss, Bianca Belair, and even a one-legged Asuka. Asuka comes hobbling down with a kendo stick. She gets a couple of shots in. She's badass. But even Asuka got destroyed. Was that too much to ask, man? Finally, Damage Control, a group that was put together with the mission statement, evidently, to take over the women's division of WWE and to be badass, taken seriously, and legit. And none of those have been checked off until last night. I cannot say there was any, and I still can't say, because last night we just saw the signs, man. This didn't even happen with the title victory from Io and Dakota. That was just a decision that should have been made earlier, weeks earlier, and instead they gave the titles to Raquel and Aaliyah, and then this was to make up for that botch. But there was never consistency attached to the title victory. And even last night, this is a good start, right? We have to start from finish. Every time Damage Control looks like they're going to be really good and taken seriously and badass and booked correctly, we take 10 steps back to the start line. And that's basically where we just had to start from last night. But man, was that a good catapult into Extreme Rules. Was that so much to fucking ask, man? Finally, Damage Control looked badass. They looked legit. They looked like a tight-knit faction that is out to seek and destroy. That's all BC has been asking for 2 months in SummerSlam. You guys know I'm right. They have not been booked badass at all, man. There's been no consistency with this group for sure. And there they were last night, ending the go-home show to Extreme Rules. Bayley has Io and Dakota set up a tall ladder. Bayley ascends to the top of that ladder with Bianca's title, and she holds that up because, of course, at Extreme Rules, that title match will be in a ladder match for Bayley and Bianca. So Bayley's up there with Bianca's title, holding it up high, and on the sides of each side of the ladder, you have Dakota on one side, you have Io on the other side. They're halfway up the ladder, and they're holding up their tag titles, so it's like Damage Control has all the titles. Like a mini bloodline, basically. When they had even Solo had a title, everybody but Sami Zayn. And they were at the press conference for Logan Paul, and it was just like such a cool visual. It was a cool visual to see them with all the titles. Now, does WWE give the title to Bayley at Extreme Rules in Philadelphia this Saturday night? Is this the end of Bianca's title reign? Would you guys be okay with that? I'm sure a lot of us, as long as it's not Charlie Flair. There's been a lot of discussion, guys. This is a real discussion of having Charlie go to the red brand, Charlotte Flair, for those newer to the channel. We like to call her, Becky always called her Charlie. But if Charlie goes to the red brand, like there's been discussion, the plan was for her to take the title from Bianca, not Bayley. I'm against that tenfold. So if Bayley's the one to take it, bro, as long as you do it creatively, I am absolutely okay with that. Charlotte Flair should be this is not even shade. Charlotte Flair should be nowhere near a championship for the foreseeable future. Work on her character, work on Charlotte Flair's connection or lack thereof with the crowd. Once you figure out how to properly book Charlotte Flair, then you can start to insert her into title pictures. But the last 6 years, we've been playing the same fucking game. There's been no connection. They don't know how to properly book Charlotte. And she keeps on winning fucking championships. It doesn't help Charlotte. It doesn't help anybody she's working with. And it makes it pretty disinteresting for the crowd. And it certainly does not help the fucking company. I need another fucking coffee. Can you tell? I'm about to start fucking promo botching like Finn Balor over here. That was Monday Night Raw for 10/3/22. Was it the most exciting of go-home shows or shows in general? Absolutely not. Was there a lot of positives on the show? Yes. Negatives? Too many. We got to clean that up. But I'm sure we can all throw this under the rug because I'm pretty positive most of us are pretty intrigued with Extreme Rules, which is at this point Wednesday, Thursday, 4 nights away. BC will be out in the world. I will not be live calling that pay-per-view like I like to do once in a while. I will be out in the world still, but one way or the other, wherever I am, I will absolutely give you guys an Extreme Rules review. Good, the bad, and the ugly, hopefully, if I have the time. But there's no way we're not going to talk Extreme Rules. They have packed this card up, man. Every match has a stipulation. This is what it should have been all along. And when everybody said I was being too critical, I was being too harsh to Vince McMahon's WWE, when Extreme Rules would come around and only 1 or 2 matches tops would have a stipulation, and we were going, damn, there's no care into this pay-per-view. Nobody's excited or looking forward to it because the company is even giving a fuck about it. And everybody said, oh, BC, you're just too mean, man. Sit back and enjoy it. No. Now you see, when you put a little bit of fucking time, care, energy, input into what you're putting out, this is the type of card you can get. You can actually create some type of intrigue with your audience. What a crazy concept. My name is BC Amplified. I've been your host. This is the Amplified channel. You're my Amplified unit, the very best rock stars in this community. And until next time, top guy and I'm out. Think, be, live, amplified always. BC saying check you.